Hare Krishna, Har Har Mahadev. Ananta Vai Vedaha is a traditional saying which signifies that the Vedas are uncountable, means limitless. This is quite plausible because the Vedas represent the total body of knowledge concerning the whole universe. Sage Yajnavalkya is said to have obtained new Vedic hymens through penance. When his enraged preceptor stopped coaching Yajnavalkya in the Vedas, those hymens are said to constitute the Shukla Yajurved. Several Vedas are said to have been lost. Vedas was formerly a generic name signifying collectively the entire stock of God given knowledge at the time of creation. The four Vedas that we talk of in modern time seem to be subsequent groupings of only a small part of vast body of knowledge which has survived and come down to us. Since those four Vedas which the Hindus preserve and recite with meticulous studied reverence could be a mixed assortment of bits of divine surviving knowledge, it is natural that no scholar is able to make any head or tail out of Vedic hymns. The primordial Om itself represents the entire body of the Vedas. In the Kruta Yuga means Satya Yuga means God-made era, the Vedas were undivided. That single body of knowledge was then known as Paramahansa Samhita, means a divine book belongs to liberated Atmas. Atmas means souls. The well-known Vedic scripture Srimad Bhagavatam informs us, Eka eva pura vedah pranavah sarva vangmayah devo narayanananya eko agnir varna evacha. Canto 9, chapter 14, slok number 48, meaning, quote, in the Satya Yuga, means Kruta Yuga, means the first millennium, all the Vedic mantras were included in one mantra, Pranava, the root of all Vedic mantras. In other words, the Atharva Veda alone was the source of all Vedic knowledge. The Supreme Lord Narayana or Vishnu was the only worshipable deity. There was no recommendation for worship of the demigods. Fire was one only, and the only order of life in human society was known as Hansa. Hansa means liberated souls. Unquote. All Vedic chants begin with Om. Any mistake in Vedic recitation is supposed to be covered and rectified by the syllable Om, because that is the seed, as it were, of all speech and knowledge. Since several Latin prayers begin with Om, it is clear that all those Europeans who are Christians today are descendants of Sanatani Hindus who used to recite the Vedas. That syllable Om is written in bold capital on the chapel arch inside the so-called St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Though there are thousands of individuals and institutions around the world who profess to explain the Vedas to others or to conduct research in Vedic language, thought and content, yet they have all failed to find any relevant theme from beginning to end of any one Veda or of all the Vedas together. Whether the Vedic stanzas are meant to be sung at fire worship is also not certain. Everybody seems to be beating around the bush, trying to coax some consistent meaning out of the Vedas. Despite such total universal failure to make head or tail out of the Vedas, people in general continue to look upon the Vedas with reverential awe. This itself is one proof of the divine origin and power of the Vedas. Another proof is the adherence of millions of families to Vedic recitation as a profession from time immemorial without practically any material or mundane allurement. There are many reasons why no single person will ever be able to gauge or tell about the total purpose, meaning, and content of the Vedas. This we have discussed elsewhere. Here we shall mention one aspect, namely that the Vedic texts that have come down to us are like the mummified corpse of a long dead world monarch. Just as one is unable to visualize the details of the reign of a long dead pharaoh by looking at his mummified body, similarly, the mere possession of the word corpus of the Vedas, also of the Avesta, is not likely to lead us very far. The life means the meaning of the Vedas has lapsed into oblivion long back. The Vedas contain such labyrinthine knowledge of all branches mixed up inextricably together that individuals can never comprehend the cosmic dimensions of Vedic knowledge. In this respect, humans are comparable to ants and the Vedas to skyscrapers of divine knowledge. Even so, it would be wrong to discontinue Vedic recitation. The Vedas are a precious divine heritage and a seat anchor of human life. They are the fountainheads of holy knowledge with which humanity must remain in constant touch by continuing to recite the Vedas and meditate on them. Great mind, detached from mundane affairs, can, with meditative concentration, call from the Vedas immense scientific knowledge and spiritual guidance from time to time. Vedic tradition is as ancient as humanity itself. To be exact, it is 1955885 years old as of 2025 AD, as documented by the chain of annual Vedic almanacs meticulously maintained to keep track of the astronomical importance of every moments of every day in diurnal, devout, individual Vedic routine of all people. Compared with Vedic antiquity, Christian and Muslim traditions, which are of only about 1372 and 600 years duration respectively, so far are but mere bubble-like aberrations on the eternal stream of time. Hence, what they need to realize is that their ancestry too is Vedic. The Vedas were handed down for day-to-day oral recitation by divinity to humanity from the first generation onwards. Oral recitation was enjoined to maintain the guiding role of the Vedas and the accuracy of their wording, and to ensure that they may not remain unread as books in a bookshop. The Vedas contain technological, mathematical, and moral guidance for humanity from divinity in their condensed, codified wording. In the very manner in which a thoughtful father provides multilateral guidance to his children, setting out on a long, arduous, risky journey by themselves. Since the Vedas embody a multilateral code, there were originally umpteen ways in which the Vedas could be recited to call the required guidance in any desired branch of knowledge. Thus, the same Vedic wording is capable of yielding a wide variety of meaning pertaining to different branches of knowledge. Therefore, the superficial interpretations derived by modern scholars engaged in mundane pursuits often lead to absurd meanings. For instance, when an Ashwamedha Yajna means horse sacrifice, was performed publicly around January 1994 in Nagpur, Bharat. Stanzas 20 and 21 from the Shukla Yajurved compendium were omitted on the insistence of some opponents because they allegedly alluded to a supposed intercourse between the sacrificial horse and the chief queen. There are two absurdities in their superficial interpretations. First, that heterogeneous sexual act is a biological incongruity and impossibility. Secondly, had such been the real import of the wording of the Vedas, they would not have commanded respect and dedicated hereditary adherence by thousands of families around the world for generations. The Vedic wording is so complex, a conglomerate of different meanings pertaining to a wide variety of diverse branches of knowledge, that all commentators so far have differed from one another. Three qualifications are essential in anyone hoping or attempting to call some relevant meaning from the Vedas. For example, number one, he or she must be an expert in Sanskrit because the language of the Vedas is divine Sanskrit. Number two, he must be a recluse, free from all mundane attractions and distractions. Number three, he must have attained a high standard of proficiency in Vedic spiritual science to be able to call a few drops of knowledge from the Vedic wording pertaining only to be able to call a few drops of knowledge in which he himself has attained a high level of proficiency. The rest of the Vedas will remain a closed book even for such dedicated, devout Atmas, means conditioned living entities, unless they again attain a state of undivided meditative concentration on the Vedic wording pertaining to their specific branch of knowledge. This is very important. People often forget these crucial points. A practical instance of this law is the compendium titled Vedic Mathematics. The Shankaracharya of Jagannath Puri, who compiled that book, fulfilled all the three qualifications mentioned earlier. For example, he was a highly qualified mathematician. He was a Sanskritist, means a Sanskrit scholar, and he was a recluse with nil mundane attachments or aspirations. Some doubters have questioned the relevance of the title of the book Vedic Mathematics by pointing out that the formulas laid down in the book do not figure anywhere in the Vedas. There precisely lies the point of analysis presented earlier. For example, that the Vedas being a condensed, codified conglomerate of the highest caliber of mathematical, technological and scientific knowledge, a devout, otherworldly Atma, means liberated person, musing and meditating on the Vedic wording, may pick and choose a word here or a syllable there or a vowel or consonant elsewhere, place them in a certain sequence and produce an uncanny formula. Because the knowledge condensed in the Vedas is as vast and as baffling as the cosmos and the illimitable space that envelops it. The worldly minds who tend to mismatch a horse with a queen in reading the Vedas make an ass of themselves, lacking even horse sense. A wide variety of institutions and individuals from Harvard to Heidelberg and Yaska down to Swami Dayananda Saraswati, founder of Arya Samaj, and Aurobindo, the founder of Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry, Bharat, have exercised their minds in interpreting the Vedas, and yet what they have produced are mere scratches. Such is the mystery of the Vedas. Their conglomerate wording is a vast divine treasure of knowledge to be kept alive through hereditary recitation, so that some gifted atmas, means liberated souls or personalities, may through the ages call some celestial grains of knowledge from time to time. That is why the mere recitation of the Vedas imparts a holy aura to the premises and persons connected with the recitation. Since the Vedas constitute a condensed, codified conglomerate of the highest principles of all branches of knowledge necessary for human existence bestowed on the first generation of humans at the start of the creation by divinity, the question arises as to why did Vyasa dabble and meddle with them? What authority or necessity made him do that? Surprisingly, no scholars hitherto have been raised that question, much less answered it. There are several answers to this. One is that changing times necessitated a subdivision of the composite text. Human affairs, beginning with the Satyayug or Krutayug, was like a chariot drawn by 4 horses. At the end of that yug, means era, 1 horse or horsepower drops off, and in the Treta Yug only 3 steeds are left. Likewise, the Dwapara era began with only 2 horses, and now in the Kali Yuga, the chariot of human life is being drawn by only one wild, unruly, emaciated steed. It is like any other vehicle giving progressively deteriorating service with advancing age. Consequently, the Vedas too needed to be trimmed with every passing yug. Yug means era, to suit the lowering spiritual, moral, intellectual, and physical caliber of succeeding generations. The trimming is about a fourth part with every passing yug. Moreover, the colossal destruction wrought by the Mahabharata war had shattered the worldwide hereditary Vedic recitation chain. Please remember, Vyasa, Krishna Dvaparam Ved Vyasa, as a Trikaladarshi, means a person who knows past, present and future, knew that Mahabharata war will happen. Sage Vyas is mentioned in Vedic tradition to have invoked the help of Lord Ganesh, alias Ganapati himself, as a stenotypist in dictating the gigantic history known as the Mahabharata. It could be that Lord Ganesh's help was also sought for Vyasa's entire gigantic literary output and not for the Mahabharata alone, because it was to be a gigantic history and time was running out. So Ved Vyas badly needed divine secretarial help. Sage Vyasa's birth and life story mark him out as a unique personality, almost a divine being. He figures among the 7 great personalities reputed to be physically immortal in Vedic tradition. It is said that when sage Parasar was crossing a river in a boat, he impregnated the boat woman Satyavati, alias Matsyagandha, because he could foresee that a unique offspring would be born from the union at that auspicious moment. The child born was known as Parasar, means the son of Parasar Muni. As per Vedic tradition, every recurring Dwapar Yuga gives rise to one Parasar, alias Vyas. Vyas, having been born in Yamuna Deep, Deep means island, he was also known Dvapayan. Having been born amidst a bower of berries, he is also called Badarayan. The epithet Vyas stuck to him later when he divided a composite Veda into 4 parts, since Vyasa connotes divider. Vyasa is credited with a gigantic superhuman literary achievement. For example, composing the 18 Puranas. Puranas means the history of the universe. writing about the Mahabharata, a gigantic epic which is almost a history of the entire human race. Composing a spiritual compendium known as Srimad Bhagavatam, the essence of all Vedic knowledge, and dividing a composite Veda into 4 different parts. Several peculiarities mark out Sage Vyas as a unique superhuman personality. For example, firstly, the way he was impregnated in a berry during a river crossing because of the prophetic propitious thought wave of the great sage and seer Parashar Muni. Secondly, his gigantic literary achievement of the highest literary, historic, sociological and spiritual standards. Thirdly, his being one among 7 physically immortal persons. This may sound incredible to many, but since the whole creation consists of myriad miracles, what can prevent divinity from keeping some chosen atmas, means liberated personalities, perpetually alive and kicking? The immortal superhuman literary cum spiritual achievement of Vyas lends credence to his physical immortality. 2. As a standby. One other reason why the Vedas had to be subdivided is that the colossal destruction caused by the Mahabharata war brought about worldwide extinction of the Gurukul Sanskrit educational system and of the numerous modes of hereditary Vedic recitation by specializing families. For instance, if the common Vedic condensed code was recited in one way, it, say, revealed principles of nuclear physics, space travel, technology, mathematics, cosmic chemistry, etc. Thus, there used to be in the remote past numerous modes of reciting the Vedas in hereditary tradition by different families. That system having been shattered by the Mahabharata Yuddha, the various modes got discontinued, leaving perhaps only 4 modes of Vedic recitation in modern times, and consequently total loss of advanced technology that was available up to the Kaurava or Pandava era. The common belief prevalent among modern Vedic scholars is that the currently extant 4 modes of Vedic recitation and the numerous extinct forms of Vedic recitation were merely to preserve the accuracy of the Vedic wording. That does not sound very reasonable or believable. If that belief were correct, then the present 4 modes alone would not ensure the accuracy of the Vedic wording, when numerous other modes remain unknown. In fact, there appears to be a fundamental drawback in the Vedic tuition imparted from Harvard in USA to Heidelberg in Germany to the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute in Pune, Bharat to Tokyo, Japan. Their scholars have probably never raised and discussed the fundamental question was to why did Sage Vyas in Dwapara Yuga divided one Veda into 4 parts, which was handed down by the divinity at the start of Satyajug or Krutajug to the first generation of humanity? And why does Vedas still command profound respect? The answer is Vyas, full name Krishna Dvaipayan Ved Vyas, the Shakta Vyas avatar, means the divinely empowered personality, descended or appeared into this mundane world to protect Vedic Sanatan Dharma, being faced with the appalling prospect of the whole crushed Vedic Sanskrit educational system disappearing into total extinction, did his best to preserve the immortal holy spiritual knowledge, because he was the only person who was capable to do this gigantic task. In other words, it was the divinity himself who did this to protect Vedic Sanatan Dharma, as he has promised in Bhagavad Gita, quote, whenever there is decline of dharma and increase of adharma or irreligion, at that time I descend myself, unquote. Chapter 4, slok number 7. Hare Krishna, please view the third part of this episode.